The first Pokemon game was released in 1996, and subsequently, a lot of versions started popping up. But in 2010, a new challenge was established, and it was the Nuzlocke challenge. So I wanted to try it out on my favorite version, Pokémon Emerald. On researching, it only has two basic rules: only catch the first wild Pokemon in the area, and release any Pokemon that faints. To add to my personal rules to this challenge, I made it so the first Pokemon encounter that hasn't been in my party or Pokedex can be caught. Play in set mode, a level cap in each gym must be followed, and no items used in battle except held items. So let's begin. So after fixing the clock at my house and settling down, we started to look for the professor. So we see Professor Birch running around with some Zigzagoon, so I quickly took his Pokemon, which of course I chose Mudkip, who I quickly beat Zigzagoon in a flash. And of course we'll name him Skipper, not the penguin. And then he asks me to meet his daughter May, who I then quickly defeat her Trico with my Mudkip. And after defeating her, as a token of gratitude, I guess, this professor gave me a Pokedex. May also gave me some Pokeballs. And also got my running shoes from mom, and then that's where the adventure begins. We caught a Poochyena, and then I failed to catch a Wingull at first at Route 103, so I bought a Pokeball and then caught it again. And then a Zigzagoon next at 102. And then see this guy, and he's all being poetic and all, asking me what I'm seeing myself in my reflection. But what I see is you clicking that subscribe button for more contents like this. And we go back to Dad giving advice on how to beat gym leaders before I have to beat him. And then we meet this shady guy, pun intended, asking me if I am a trainer, but I'm not all dirty. Trainers can be clean, right? So we head on to Petalburg Woods, catch this Shroomish, who I will call Clicker, not pertaining to a monster in another game. Then we catch a Wurmple, who I named Beautifly because I really wanted that Beautifly. Eventually evolves into a Cascoon. I quickly battled someone named Team Aqua Grunt, and this guy just gave me a great ball as a token of appreciation. Yes. And then I see this shady guy again in a school. Like, isn't that too shady? And then, of course, Beautifly evolves into a Dustox. That was completely unexpected. For the Roxanne battle, I have Clicker, Skipper, and 102, well, that's Wingull, for my party to beat them. And of course, as expected, Clicker single-handedly killed all of them. I was gonna use Mudkip, but then Nosepass used Block against Clicker, so it was up to him to end the game. Nice. After the gym battle, we see this Grunt again, knowingly steal something from the Devon core, and of course, our goal was to catch an Abra. But then I got a Nincada and named him Naruto. And Skipper then evolves into a Marshtomp. Nice. So going inside the cave, we catch a Whismur, which we name D&D, and then beat this guy again like he hasn't learned his lesson. Like, come on, give me some space. So before we proceed with battling May, I tried to train 102 by battling wild Pokemons one at a time, but then it quickly fainted. And that's goodbye for you. That's one down, and we then go back to Devon Core, and then they're asking me for another favor. How do you trust a 10-year-old kid to do an errand that adults are supposed to do? And for the May battle, we just have Clicker and Beautifly to beat her Pokemon Wingull and Trico. Of course, Clicker beats Wingull, who doesn't have any flying moves, which is good, and then Beautifly just used Gust against May. So off we go to do for that. We catch an Aron on the way before Brawly, and then start with a Brawly battle. I have 3 Pokemon, a Marshtomp, Shroomish, and Beautifly. Marshtomp pummels each and every one of them. You are the true MVP for the Dewford battle, Skipper. Good job. Then we meet Steven at the Granite Cave, and he gives us a Steel Wing. Not that I have a flying type Pokemon to use that for. And then we go to Slateport City, battle some Aqua Grunts, meeting Captain Stern and this Team Aqua leader Archie. Then the shady guy pops up once again, and he even gave his number to me. And so did Professor Birch, looking for his daughter. Like, speaking of May, we have 2 Pokemon to use. Although I have 6 there in my party, I just use Marshtomp, Beautifly, who then beats May in an instant. My problem was Marshtomp became level 24 when the level cap for Watson is level 23. So the only Pokemon who has immunity to Watson became over leveled. So now I'm in a pickle. So I tried to catch Electrike, who then just dies after training for a few minutes. And then we battle Wally. Wally is not a threat. So Clicker just used a couple of headbutts and then he loses. And then this shady guy once again praises me for beating my friends. Clicker evolved into a Shroomish. Nice. Zigzagoon evolved into Linun and who learned Mud Sport, which is very useful for this battle since I don't have Marshtomp. So then we switch out Aaron, who has a Mud Slap, but then quickly dies. So Shroomish is up to the challenge and kills Magneton, then Manectric. Nice. After beating Watson, we head out to look for Flannery. And during that time, we catch Mariel, who I named Street. Not from a famous actress or something. And then we catch a Coffin named Fartness, as well as a Spinda. We tried to catch a Lombre, killed on the first try, then tried again, and then caught it again. Then we catch a Zubat at Nature Falls named Patricia. Who could that be? Then we go ahead and look for Team Magma and Team Aqua fighting over something at Meteor Falls. Then we see the scientist, and then we catch a Geodude from a Rock Smash. We head up to Mount Chimney and battle Magma's leader Maxie. And then, of course, Clicker, being the overpowered being it is, just punches away Mightyena. Stuns Camera up, and then it's up to Streep to save the day with a 4 times effective Bubble Beam. And I'm hoping that it will end Camera. And it did. And it was up to Streep to finish Zubat with 2 rollouts. Nice. Upon arriving to Loveridge Town, we meet this old lady, gives us an egg, and of course, let's start to battle Flannery. With Streep, Skipper, HM Dump, and Fart Noise as my team, Streep casually ends 2 of her Pokemon and then ends her camera up as well with a 4 times effective Bubble Beam. And then this Torkoal became a problem for me. It uses Sunny Day and then paralyzes Streep with a Body Slam, so it's up to Skipper to use Mud Shot, but then falls in love with a turtle. How can a Mud Skipper fall in love with a turtle? They're not even compatible. So H&M tries its best to headbutt Torkoal but then dies with an overheat. So did Fart Noise. That was completely unexpected. So it was up to Streep to end it, got Body Slam, and then we got her. We beat Flannery. Man, that was tough considering that I have 2 water type Pokemons. After the battle, it was time to let go of Coughing. I couldn't let go of Linun yet because she's my HM Dump. I got Trapinch and Sandshrew shortly after going to Mirage Desert, and then I found myself the Clefairy. After training for a while, Spinda died, and why not hatch from the egg with this cute little trick that I did. And then I got Shedinja, and due to too much walking, I got a Crobat, and of course, I got Jurassic. And it's time to battle Norman. I wasn't actually expecting Norman to put up a fight because of, Clicker pummeling everyone with a Mach Punch. So there goes Spinda, then Vigoroth, and then Linun, And then, of course, the dreaded slacking. I know slacking was gonna do something, so I tried to stun him first. And then the goal was for him to die out of Leech Seed. So I confused him first with using Patricia, then swap out to Clicker to do the Leech Seed and finish it off with a Mach Punch and a Mega Drain. Swapping counter and then the loafing around. Easy. Proceeding to the game to my journey becoming a champion, I met with Watson and he gave me this key to a basement for the generator of Mauville, hoping I'd get a Magnemite, but I got a Voltorb instead, and then I got Wobbuffet. Then I went to the game corner, not gambling of course, I just used my money to buy coins for me to get Ice Beam for my next gym leader. Then I caught Tentacool, named her Ursula, and then I got Karma the Kecleon. Orbeez was my ticket to beating Winona, but then it just died out of a regular battle from Atropius. So instead, I went back to Slateport, used the old rod to catch a Magikarp, then put it in the daycare to gain some levels so that I would evolve into a Gyarados, which I would then teach it Thunderbolt, such a very complicated way to beat Winona. Then I went to this Weather Institute and battled Team Aqua with a few Pokemon on my team with my new Gyarados and Streep to beat Shelly from Team Aqua. With just a couple of rollouts and a Bubble Beam, the deed was done. And as a reward for saving the people in the Weather Institute, I got a Castform, named after a famous forecaster, counting the chance of meatballs. So it's now time to battle May. Once again, I used Streep, my new Patricia, and then I used Aku. Beat Slugma with a rain-boosted Bubble Beam, then Patricia to finish Grovyle with a Wing Attack, which is super effective. Good thing Patricia has an inner focus ability so that it didn't flinch and killed it off. I was trying to level up Castform so I could get Hail because it already has Powder Snow so I can beat Winona. But then after using Rain Dance, it just died out of Thunderbolt. That's too bad. And it's now time for my original plan to beat Winona with Streep, Marshtomp, Gyarados, Crobat, and Breloom. Streep used Rollout for the first few Pokemon, Swablu, Gyarados, then Pelipper, which knocked them all out. And then Skarmory taking the last hit of the Rollout, but then missed, so Aku's turn to shine using Thunderbolt twice, which was super effective, and then used it against Altaria once again, but then saw how weak that was, so I switched to Skipper, and Skipper used a 4 times strong Ice Beam to finish the deed. Take that, Winona. Following the path to Lily Cove City, I caught an Oddish named Bob. I was running out of names, guys. And Marshtomp evolved into Swampert. Also caught a Shuppet named Muppet. I'm such a poet. And then it's time to battle May, using my first few Pokemons that I use against Winona as well. So that's Streep, Patricia, Gyarados, and Swampert. So we beat her with Wing Attack by Patricia against her Tropius. Gyarados used Surf against Slugma. Then Thunderbolt against Pelipper, which is 4 times effective. And then switch out to Patricia against Grovyle for her to use Fly. And that's about it. Goodbye, May. I won't be seeing you again. So following my path to the champion route, I was blocked by a bunch of Wilmers, so I had to go to Mount Pyre, only to find out that I have to go to Team Magma's hideout. But before that, I caught myself a Kameko named Sia. But then, on the journey back, Clicker died, which was so unfortunate because she was my ace. That's so sad. And I caught Torkoal, named him Crash, beat Tabitha, and then it was time to beat Maxie. The problem with Maxie was I wasn't prepared with the team lineup and I didn't get to heal before fighting him. So I only had Streep, Aku, and Patricia against his Pokemon. A couple of hits later, Gyarados almost dies, so I swap him out. Patricia used Air Cutter. I switch out to Streep while Camerupt was out, tried to use Bubble Beam, and then see that it had no effect, and then it used Earthquake. So Streep was kinda in danger, so I swap out to Aku thinking that it would use Earthquake, but then it used Takedown. So I used Surf and then swap out to Patricia for Crobat. Use Confuse Ray, hoping that it would stall a little bit more, but then it died from a critical wing attack. So I was hoping that Crobat wouldn't get to kill me since Gyarados has a Thunderbolt. And it didn't die. Used a Super Potion. So I Thunderbolted again. It didn't hit. Survived an Air Cutter. And didn't get the crit. And I was the one to beat Crobat. That was close. And it's too bad that Crobat fell as well. I needed someone to use Fly, so I went back to Route 115, caught a Tailo, and then I caught Wilmer at Route 105. My strategy was I will be able to catch Staryu at Lily Cove because it's only Wilmer and Staryu available when fishing. Then Swellow dies from a random battle, thinking that she was my saving grace for my flying type. So I evolved Vibraba and hoping that I would get a Flygon so I can have someone to use Fly. We catch Team Aqua, but then when we went to the base, Bob dies. That's unfortunate because I was gonna use him to fight Juan. And then again, I didn't get to fix my team. So Sia, Gyarados, and Streep were against Mightyena and Golbat. Against Team Aqua, a couple of Confuse Rays later, Sia tries to kill Golbat, but it was too slow for a confusion. So it was time to use Streep and then use Bubble Beam to finish the match. That was so close, Gyarados. And now it's time to fight Tate and Lisa. So my team was Swampert, Gyarados, Marill, Azumarill, and Vibraba. I actually had two whiteouts here. I wasn't actually able to capture the match. My recording glitched. So this is the one where I succeeded, where a couple of Thunderbolts, Ice Beam, and Surfs later, I was able to hit Solrock, Lunatone, and then Claydol with a lucky Hydro Pump from Gyarados. Good job, guys. And it was time to battle Maxie and Tabitha again at the Space Center with Steven. I used Swampert to use Surf against Camerupt and Mightyena, who falls immediately, only to be slowed down by Scary Face and then confused with Confuse Ray. We finished Golbat with Ice Beam. You Surf again against Mightyena and the other Mightyena. So you have Camerupt left. But then it started using Earthquake. So Swampert was in danger. We used Surf, but then finished the match. But then he still has a Crobat. So we had to swap out to Gyarados and use Thunderbolt to finish the match. No thanks to Steven. And finally, I went back and was able to catch a Staryu, who of course, who would ever to call her a star than some famous actress. Evolved my Shuppet into Bannet, and then I caught a Spheal, named him Wally, so I'll be using him against Drake for sure. And then I caught a Sharpedo, going back, I think that's in Route 127. Caught a Lantern in Route 128 after using Dive. And then we head out to the Seafloor Cavern to battle Archie. So Gyarados, Swampert, and Streep were up to the task to beat him with Ice Beam and Thunderbolt, beating Mightyena and Crobat as well as Sharpedo. That was easy. And a couple of banters later by these two adults who caused nothing but trouble, Steven tries to talk me into fixing everything, seeing this majestic battle between Kyogre and Groudon, and then caught myself a Sableye in the Cave of Origins. Tried to fish in front of the two. And of course, I met with Rayquaza to stop the chaos the two adults were doing. But before going there, we caught a Claydol. And how cool was this battle between Kyogre and Groudon, only to be stopped by Rayquaza. It's weird that Groudon's just retreating back when he has just a patch of land surrounded by water. So I evolved Staryu, my Anorith, and my Chinchou, and my Flygon, and my Spheal into Walrein. A couple of things before battling Juan. And now it's time to battle Juan with my new member on the team, Lady Gaga. Using Thunderbolt against Love Disc, then Crodon, immediately falls, then Whiscash with Psychic, and then Thunderbolt again with Sileo. My only problem now was Kingdra, who then shortly dies after being paralyzed. And that was awesome. Starmie, you're the best. With all the badges in hand, there's nothing left to do but to go to the Victory Road, only to be stopped by Wally in my tracks. So my party was Flygon, Swampert, Gyarados, Azumarill, and Starmie. Flygon used Dragon Breath against Altaria, seeded by Delcatty, so I have to swap him out, use Dive, but then Wally swaps Delcatty with Roselia, so my Dive was useless. So Gyarados' turn was to intimidate Roselia, but he was seeded, got a Toxic, and he was supposed to use Fly, which quickly ends Roselia. I was afraid of losing Flygon there, so I swapped to Lady Gaga, used Thunderbolt against Delcatty to finish the job, and then swap out to Skipper with a Mud Shot since it was immune to electric moves, and then almost falls with a Psychic by Gardevoir, and then Starmie ends the match with a Thunderbolt. I wasn't expecting a tough battle with Victory Road, but my problem arose when Gyarados died from a Thunderbolt by a Lantern, Flygon died with an explosion from a Lunatone, my supposed to be Ludicolo died from a Faint Attack, and a Needle Arm kills Claydol, and a Shadow Ball killed Grumpig. So what was left with my team? I had no idea how to battle this. So my first attempt with Glacia, I only had my Torkoal and my Shuppet left to battle with Drake. So you know how that goes. I was able to kill Shelgon at first, but then just quickly dies after a crunch by Flygon. Well, that's my third whiteout. For the next match, I had Swampert and Walrein, but then quickly dies from an explosion with Glalie, and also dies once again. So that's my fifth whiteout. I wasn't satisfied with my team, so I tried to catch a Heracross but got a Phanpy instead at the Safari Zone. And then I looked for someone alternative, so I got an Exploud, and finally caught this majestic horsey, named her Queendra because she's a female, evolved her into Seadra, and I got her turn into a Kingdra. So finally, my party was complete. I had Starmie, Walrein, Swampert, Armaldo, Exploud, and Kingdra to fight the Elite Four. But then, unfortunately, I wasn't able to beat Wallace because of a Ludicolo. That's where it all ended. That's too bad. The team didn't get past Glacia the first try after Glalie exploding, so that's my 7th whiteout. Another try, Flygon erases my Skipper for my 8th whiteout. So my new strategy was I was only going to use 2 Pokemon for Sydney using Armaldo and Swampert. So the level cap there is 49. So I set their levels into 49. And then I taught Swampert Brick Bake, so he was able to kill Mightyena, and then use Ice Beam against Cacturne, who didn't fall immediately and used only Cotton Spore. So Armaldo uses Fury Cutter and Cacturne, and then swaps out to Swampert using Brick Break ending Crodon, and then I use Ice Beam against Shiftry, use Brick Break for Absol, didn't work, and then just to use Mud Shot to end it. For the next match, I'll be using Exploud with the other 2. So Exploud has a level cap of 51, that's why he's at level 51 after battling Phoebe. So I have 3, but then Dusclops cursed itself and then got healed by Phoebe, so Armaldo hit Dusclops with a Metal Claw. Good job, Armaldo. Swampert tanked a Rock Slide from Dusclops, use Surf 3 times, use against Shuppet, and then Sableye, and then for Bannet with another Shadow Ball with Exploud. Easy. And now it's time for Glacia. I had Queendra and Starmie joined the team, so I have 5 to battle her. I thought Exploud, Sunny Day, Solar Beam, and Flamethrower. I used Solar Beam because I know Sileo was gonna use Hail. I used Sunny Day so I could use Flamethrower against this Glalie. Pretty sure this isn't the one with the explosion. Tried to use Solar Beam against Sileo, which succeeded. I think the level 52 one was the one with the explosion for Glalie. Tried to use Rock Smash against it, but Armaldo dies from an Ice Beam. Lady Gaga was next, so she used Surf against Glalie. Levels up, used Thunderbolt against Walrein. Only took it twice to kill that Walrein. Good job, Starmie. You're starting to become my MVP. Finally, for Drake's battle, I wasn't gonna use Kingdra, so I only have 5 Pokemon to use, and Wally leads the match. Wally used Ice Beam after evading that Protect, and then Salamence with the Rock Slide. Wally just tanks it and used Ice Beam, which is 4 times effective against Salamence as well as Altaria, who was trying to be faster than me, but just got hit by Hail and Ice Beam. So when it's time for Kingdra, I used the Ice Beam once again to end Kingdra. Since Wally was in danger of dying and Flygon was faster than him, I tried to switch with Skipper to tank an Earthquake for him to finish Flygon with an Ice Beam, who almost dies with only 12 HP remaining. This is why I'm proud of my boy Skipper. And finally, it was time to battle Wallace. So I tried to use Solar Beam against Wailord first because I know it was gonna use Rain Dance. And then I used Sunny Day after, who didn't have any damage from that Solar Beam. So we swapped to Swampert, tanked a Sludge Bomb, and then used Earthquake against Tentacruel. It's nice. And then I know he was gonna switch out Ludicolo, so we switched with Kingdra, who was not weak against Grass. So we used Ice Beam a couple of times, which ended Ludicolo, then used Thunderbolt against Gyarados. And now it's time for Whiscash, who quickly uses Amnesia and then used Hyper Beam against my Walrein, which gave me a chance to switch with Swampert so I can use Brick Break to end Whiscash. Then it was time for Milotic, so we swap out with Staryu because I know it was gonna use Surf. Tried to use Thunderbolt, but she just tanked it. So Exploud tries to use Solar Beam but just dies. Then Walrein tanked the Surf, but then quickly dies after, which gives me a free pass with Kingdra, who has a Pecha Berry, because I know he was the one going to tank Milotic without taking any other hit. That's why I used Queendra to use Thunderbolt to end Milotic, and finally beating Wallace. Good job, team. I was so relieved did that happen. So before I declare myself champion with this Nuzlocke, I have to beat Steven first and try to catch a Clamperl and the Beldum from Steven, evolved it into Metagross, and of course I evolved Clamperl into Gorebeast, so I would be ready to battle Steven, who was at a level cap of 78. So that's what I leveled my Pokemons up to, using Starmie first with a Thunderbolt against Skarmory, then a Surf against Aggron, swap out with Metagross, who has a Meteor Mash, but then Cradily tries to ingrain itself, and I know it wasn't gonna work that much because he missed, so I used Toxic with Shiftry. Metagross's Meteor Mash finally hits Cradily, so it was a battle between Claydol and Metagross. So I swap out with Lady Gaga, who is still toxic, used an Ice Beam against Claydol, and then I swapped to Swampert, using Earthquake against Metagross. After the Reflect wore off, it was super effective. So it was Armado left in the team, and Swampert finally finishes the game. Before I officially declare my champion, let us take a few moments to remember all the fallen Pokemon that I had. I was not expecting to have this much deaths in one run, but I'm proud of myself for finishing every single bit. Good job. And I think my MVP was Starmie for this game. Good job, Starmie. So that's about it. If you want some more contents like this, feel free to like, subscribe, and share this to your friends. leave a comment on what generation I should do next for this Nuzlocke challenge. It was hard, but it was so rewarding. And it was also fun knowing that I was able to play my game again. So, till next time!